Honorable River Martinez with a team of superheroes. Walk throughout the land, find my team of super zeros. Add it up, come back with negative indictments of a system that stomped out positive enlightenment. Occupy the streets, let's occupy the nation, but don't occupy your mind with false occupation. Occupy the positions when your team falls short. Stand with the accused by occupying the court. Occupy all airwaves, spaces in between. Occupy the undercover and the overseen. But when occupying ain't enough, and we need a next tactic. Combine the global block madness and see what happens. We do it for the people, we do it for the movement. Occupy America, that's what we do.
Occupation, that's what they all yelling, but it's gangster nation. A bankers that be selling out the future of the politicians. Sit back thinking about the next move to scrape the next million off the backs of our children. I'm over telling the story so true that it's never selling. No more lies, occupying time in the minds of my sisters while we strive to survive and realize the lives and pictures of our future. Light the dimmer underneath the shadow they cast and leaving us without dinner. While we all gotta be strapped against the wall, no relief in sight, that's why we stressing to bore. Yo, we bring heat tonight, you hear the call, and my suggestion is you heed the call. Occupy government, ain't no either or. We are the ones we've been waiting for. I'm free, not defined by what I have, but what I give to my community and humanity. I'm free, I know my identity and really don't care what you think of me. I'm free, living my dreams, but with no fear, impossibilities, cause I know they ain't there. I'm free, and already occupying the streets. This way, nothing ever could be taken from me.
As we are just coming in to the first week of July, celebrating the July 4th celebration this past weekend, I love this theme song. We're all free. So if you're free with me, wonderful, wonderful. Well, if you're free with me, everybody, come on in, tune in to give me a call, check us out on the line, see us on Facebook. This is George Martinez, Tell George Live, the weekly Monday conversation series. And today we're going to talk a little bit about just some things that are on my mind. I don't have any special guests, but of course, if you call, you will be my special guest today. And today, once again, this is the first week of July. And I'm excited to be here once again on Out North Radio, 1061 KONR. And the phone number is 222-1061. That's 222-1061 if you got something you want to chat about. And I'm particularly interested in if you celebrated the July 4th holiday, your reflections on the holiday, your reflections both in terms of what you did with your family or what you did by yourselves or how you celebrated or didn't. But I'm also interested in the larger conversations about the reflections of what it means to be American, the reflections of identity, and the reflections of critical mindedness, right? The idea that we could still have robust discussions of this experiment of American democracy, in this experiment of what it means to be an American, the grand experiment, if you will. Things are evolving and things change, and what your reflections on that are as we celebrate this July 4th holiday. And hopefully you're home tuning in and you're checking in. Give a call. The number is 222-1061. Or if you're checking in on and can't get on Facebook, you can find this live streamed right now at George for Anchorage is the page on Facebook. And it's really about connecting people, everybody. So Tell George Live, weekly conversation series about people, politics, and progress. And we'll talk about a couple things today. Including, I'd love to even see if anybody has any calls or any thoughts about this idea that people are talking about, critical race theory. Okay, what that means to you? What does that mean out loud? Me personally, I'm just going to throw it out there at the start of the show. I don't like brands. I don't like concepts. I like people to talk straight. Just talk what you mean. Say what you mean, right? So let's get into a little bit about what we mean. What are the things that we're looking for when we talk about progress in schools with respect to equity or healthcare? What are the things we mean when the school district takes on an anti-racist policy. Thank you, Margot Bellamy, school board president for the Anchorage School District, who joined us last week. And so we're going to give a call or give any thoughts that you have on the Facebook channel so we could get into this conversation a little bit more. And, I had a great weekend and celebrating just mostly celebrating my family because I just love being with my family. When you're wearing so many hats, so many of us wear so many hats in our community that when you have that time to just get to the family time, however you do it. For me, I enjoy my backyard. Got a pretty good. I'm growing potatoes again, so we get outside and touch the dirt. I'm into all of that. Little League baseball was big last week for me, and as everybody knows, I'm a big supporter and promoter of community sports. So, this weekend for me was doing some of those activities, but I also had a chance to go down to the Anchorage 4th of July parade, and I got to say, welcome back, Anchorage. It was good to see everybody. It was good to see so many friends and so many people coming out to celebrate together. I was walking with the Bridge Builder delegation in the 4th of July parade. Shout out to the Bridge Builders of Anchorage and people like Elsa Sargento, one of the pioneers of that organization. People like Malcolm and Cindy Roberts. Shout out to Cindy Roberts, was out there too. And Cindy Roberts, it was one of the few Ms. Alaskans who became Ms. America in the beauty pageant in like 1978. So this is kind of a little bit of some of the Alaskan history, but all of this diversity of people that were there at the start. Reverend Alonzo Patterson, shout out to Reverend Alonzo Patterson, former head of Shiloh Baptist Church, but who is retired now, and congratulations on that. And shout out to Andra Parker, the Reverend over at Shiloh. Brother definitely throws down. Shout out to my pastor, Pastor Tommy, catching you online. Thank you for the broadcast, Pastor. And so Pastor Alonzo Patterson was there. There were a couple others, and I know Rick Mystrom was there too, former mayor of Anchorage, Rick Mystrom. And the Bridge Builders were about bringing people together from all different walks of life, celebrating the diversity that was found in Anchorage at that time. Now, celebrating diversity and moving into policy, very different, but there are starting points. There's arcs to change, and this city has a starting point in that a group of diverse people, white folks, black folk, ethnic people from different parts of the world who find this place to be their home, came together at the start of the Bridge Builders to create a pledge. And that pledge was for Anchorage to become the first city without prejudice. So let's put a pin on that so we could all hear it again. Anchorage to become the first city without prejudice. Hello, Billie Jean Mueller. Good to see you. Hello, Chelsea Foster. And everybody else that's tuning in on the radio. If you're listening over the air, 106.1, this is George Martinez. Tell George Live. And the number to call in is 222-1061. If you got any reflections on your 4th of July weekend, your holiday celebration, just reflections on what it means to be American, what it means to celebrate the holiday or not to celebrate the holiday. I know there are differing opinions, and that's one of the beautiful things about our both city and our country. There's a lot of rigidity and there's a lot of problems, but ultimately, in my mind, and I've traveled a lot and traveled around the world to many different countries and have done work in the overseas, many different communities, that we can disagree here with such almost to such extremes to often is one of the beautiful things about our country. It's one of the beautiful features. And so let's not just lose sight of that as well, that we can debate, that we can disagree, that we can have political disagreements. And, my disposition is just find the values, again, that what keeps us together, the values in our community that hold us together. Those values are what are going to get us through the difficult times. And again, even in family, I don't know who has had any family relations or family visiting this week, and you want to give a call and talk about a little bit of that. But I mean, jeepers, I don't know any family that's not had conflict or controversy amongst just family members, siblings. So, yeah, we have controversies in the city. Yes, we have controversies in the country. But what does it mean to come together to celebrate a holiday like July 4th? Give a call, post a message on there. How did you celebrate? What are your reflections? Let me get it on the air and help amplify just the diversity of ideas in our city. I didn't start off with a land acknowledgement, so let me go back to that. I'm sorry, it's got right into the flow. For the several weeks, I've had technical difficulties at the start of the show, and I felt really good today not having technical difficulties, but I walked right past the land acknowledgement. So, yes, this is George Martinez, Tell George Live, broadcasting live on Out North Radio here in Anchorage, Alaska, the ancestral land of the Dena'ina Athabascan, whose stewardship once was and remains today. And the interesting note about that, a land acknowledgement, is I've heard from people who are stoking and who are really getting into this kind of political controversy around critical race theory and the concerns about anti-racist policies in the school district. Also kind of talking bad about the nature of doing land acknowledgements. And so what do you think about that? And you don't have to agree. You could disagree. You could totally disagree with me. Remember, I will make sure that we can disagree with dignity. I will hold my ground, though, and I hope that you're open-minded. I'll be open-minded, too, if you got a good point. But let me just lay out some ground rules if you do want to call or if you do have something to say and you want to talk about critical race theory. I don't want to hear jargon. What I do want to hear is, what do you mean? Just blunt, talk directly. I'll give an example. Why would anybody be mad that we have grown as a people, wherever we show up, whatever city, whatever state, but as a people, generally speaking, we have grown, and it took a long time to get here. We've grown enough to start to do land acknowledgements. What's wrong with a land acknowledgement? Why is that a terrible thing? Or why is it a great thing? I think it's a great thing. But if you disagree or you think land acknowledgements are part of some plot to undermine the foundation of the country by recognizing kind of ancestral people's relationships to the land even before that precede the country, well, I don't think that's I think we're smarter than that, and so I don't have that concern. But maybe you have that concern. I'd love to hear your voice. And if you believe that we're doing the right thing with land acknowledgements, as an example, give a call. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that too, especially in light of the 4th of July holiday. You know, I know a lot of folk are upset about, and this is, again, it's about the criticisms of critical race theory. And because I've tried to break it down with people, and the folks that I've talked to were also mad about the nature of telling a different version of kind of like historical stories like Columbus. And I don't fully get the opposition to truth. So if you are one of the folk that are listening in and you have a disagreement about what we should be teaching in school in terms of U.S. history and the nature of even parts of the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, that basically said that Africans at that time were less than human. They were a percentage of men. I mean, so if you have a disagreement that happened, I'd love to hear your perspective. And I think that we can honor history by telling the truth, recognizing that there was imperfect information at that time, and, you know, not try to apply the norms and the mores of today back when, but recognizing that things did happen and that we're often living in the shadows or the echoes of those things that happened. So when we talk about structural reform and we talk about institutional racism, those are the things that I think that people are really highlighting, that if you hadn't addressed the core, the fundamental challenges or issues or supremacy early on, well, then you build systems around that. You're just changing policy, but sometimes the core, the root, the why these systems are in place need to be revisited. And that's partly why the move to bring in anti-racist language as a framework, a guiding post into the school district, like School Board President Margot Bellamy described, I think is a good thing. I think it's a good thing because, yes, it's symbolic. And yes, there's more we can do. But, the nature of beginning to uncover and let exploration happen at deeper levels that really are about identity, how we feel about ourselves, and how we show up in this country and in this state. That's why, if you have a thought about what it means to be an American and the reflection of the 4th of July weekend, or any reflection about this holiday and what it means to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to give a call. I may try to get you on the air. It's probably easier to send a message on Facebook, but check in. It's 106-222-1061, and I'm on Out North Radio. This is Tell George Live with a little music in the background. And Chelsea Foster, let me get this comment up on here. Chelsea writes, and thank you for connecting with us. Chelsea's on the Facebook feed and posted land acknowledgements for her as a white person is a means of taking steps to break the generational curses that she feels tied to. It's an opportunity to learn about the ancestry of the land and the rewards of the land we benefit from due to the ancestry and culture of the lands we reside on. Thank you, Chelsea. An opportunity to reflect. And I often think that there's a lot of controversy around just the nature of challenging people to reflect. And I think a good reflection is due. It's good. It's time for it. And so if you have a thought about critical race theory, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Not what do you mean by that? This is what I really want to hear. Not I'm for it or against it. That doesn't mean anything to me. I just want to know what you mean by when we say critical race theory. And I'm really going to try to have folks from, I think there's a few groups on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook and you notice folks on the group, invite them. Let them know that George Martinez wants to talk to them too, whether it's folks from Save Anchorage or whether it's people from other groups that may kind of be a part of this growing political tension around what's being called critical race theory, or around the school board adopting anti-racist policies. So what does it mean to you if you've heard of this term, anti-racist? I'd love to hear your thoughts about that too. Feel free to type a message if you're on Facebook, or give a call, 222-1061, and I'll try to get you on the air. Now, if somebody calls, I'll screen it, and I'll try to do that so we can at least know who we're talking to. And if you're one of my homies, one of my friends, and you're tuning in and you got my line too, feel free to give a call. I'll get you on the air. This is a real pressing conversation right now. Now, what's amazing is that I was at a barbecue this weekend. Let me use this as an example. And one of my friends, maybe it depends on where you're from, your backgrounds. But one of my friends is a white fella who grew up in Chicago, lived here for many, many years now, and got a family, beautiful family. Our kids play ball together. And as we were having this conversation over a 4th of July reflection over a fire pit, we were talking about what it means to be American, the rights and the privileges. We were talking about white privilege. We were talking about racism and what they were calling, reverse racism and all just sorts of stuff. And, and I think we got into this conversation for all the right purposes. I think I was exploring, right? And my friends are good enough and open enough to kind of have those conversations with me. And I like that. So we can have these conversations. But I was thinking about if they heard about the school district, and it's really around anti-racist policy. So I had to explain it a little bit, and we talked a lot. And, my friend had the greatest reaction that I find to be very true, depending on where you're from, which was, doesn't everybody know that this country was built on white supremacy? Doesn't everybody know? This is a white fella. Doesn't everybody know that that a particular group of Europeans at the time kind of exploited and pillaged as much as they could, and then other Europeans, as they came later on, this had a chance to like different opportunities to decide whether they wanted to be a part of that culture or remain very ethnic. So like the journey of understanding the complexity of race in the United States was not missed on my friend, right? And so he just didn't understand the controversy when people were mad at teaching more factual or accurate history, like the difference between I'm thinking of a couple minutes ago I was listening to a Malcolm X clip, but the difference between, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock landed on us. That difference between that, right? The difference between being able to say, well, yeah, I mean, people's ancestors, even whether it was bloodline or just culturally related, had the ability to, commit just wholesale genocide and never tell those stories. Never tell the stories of both the disaster, but never tell the stories of the successes and the contributions of the diversity of people, the contributions of the African American community, the contributions of Black folk, the contributions of Latino folk, contributions of our Asian American brothers and sisters. The American history is not just the story that's been told; it's the experiences of us all. And if I look at it from that perspective, we necessarily don't know the whole story, because we're just now activating more opportunities to hear more voices and to hear more perspectives. So as we hear more voices and more perspectives, we'll have new takes on situations. We'll have new understandings on both our U.S. history and our local history. So I, for one, think that that's a great thing. And I don't feel challenged by that. And I don't feel less patriotic. I've served my nation, not in the military, but as a diplomat and as a person who has done work under the banner and the auspices of the United States of America and the Department of State, as a contractor, as a civilian, and as a diplomat. So, I don't feel any less connected, even though I can remain aware and critically minded. But for me, this is not new. So I'm a little also confused by the nature of people being so challenged by what's being described as critical race theory. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your reflections. What do you think about the school district's anti-racism policy? What does that mean to you? Why is it on your radar if it is? What reflections have you had over this past weekend as you were celebrating the 4th of July, or as you weren't? Why? What were you doing? I'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections. And I also would love to hear what you were doing. Like, I had a great barbecue yesterday at my friend's house where I had a chicken and basil hot dog, which was phenomenal. So I hear they have it at a local box store. Not going to give any free promotion to any corporate entities, but it was a pretty good hot dog. So, whatever your reflection is on the 4th of July, I'd love to hear it as we're moving forward on this program. So I'm going to take a quick pause, come right back, and we may have a person on the line, and or we'll just get into this next part of the conversation, and hopefully we will have a caller. But I'm going to take it to a little Our City from the Global Block Collective.
Come on. Yes, we can. But it's on our terms. Yeah. Look into my eyes, focus crystallized. Got love for my city with my fist in the sky. Look into my hands, purpose in the plans. Freedom for my people to take back the land. We growing food on rooftops to make sure the hunger stops. But if we liberate the soil, we running the cops. The food walls of silence, shutting dissent with violence. Too many kids are falling asleep to the sound of sirens, while their parents are learning to believe in the liars. MK Ultra, tampering with your wires. How we don't see the plans to divide us all around. We still can't unify till after the beat down. Rallies and protests is what we good at. but long-term commitment and taking the hood back. Not so much cause you gotta get yours, I gotta get mine. We out to lunch on the divine, acting like swine. Get injected with a vaccine, now your DNA is hacked in. Powers that be mad cause I'm rapping. Truth to power, no acting, the streets is gritty. Commence with hands clapping, time to remix the city. Look into my eyes, focus crystallized. Got love for my city with my fist in the sky. Look into my hands, workers in the plans. Freedom of my people to take back the land. Look into my eyes, focus crystallized. Got love for my city with my fist in the sky. Look into my hands, workers in the plans. Freedom of my people to take back the land. Take back the land.
Take back the land. Take back the land. Take back the land. Our city's agenda is progressive for the babies. Living wages and an equal pay for the ladies. 99% giving 100 all the time. The rise in foster rate got families running all the time. While slumlords get tax breaks to keep getting richer. Whole families going to sleep without dinner. Got more vacant apartments than there are homeless. More cops than teachers, more banker bonuses. We got to turn the situation around before the oldest can be found out in the jail and underground. The time is now, state our vision clear and loud. Gotta be more than just a saying, we young, black, and proud.
Look into my eyes, look is crystallized. Got love for my city with my fist in the sky. Look into my hands, workers in the plans. Freedom of my people to take back the land. Look into my eyes, hope is crystallized. Got love for my city with my fist in the sky. Look into my hands, workers in the plans. Freedom of my people to take back the land. Take back the land.
All right. Yes. Our City, Global Block Collective. And I had a great time producing that song. So you can find that music that we're playing on Spotify. You can look it up at Global Block Collective. This is George Martinez on Tell George Live, Out North Radio 106.1. The number is 222-1061. Or you can catch me live on George for Anchorage. And hey, everybody, I see we got a couple of viewers still on there. I'm going to transition into a poem because these are one of the poems that I reflect on when I think of the 4th of July. And this is a Langston Hughes poem, everybody. So let me drop a little Langston Hughes poem on everybody. I may be able to use this groove in the back. I like that. So let's see if it doesn't change too much. Matter of fact, let's go a cappella on that. Everybody, this is a Langston Hughes poem called I, Too. I, too, sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen, then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I, too, am America. Now, these are small excerpts from the poems. I'd like pulling them up. And what does that mean to you? I, too, am America. And that's what I really want to focus in on when we talk about identity, race, when we talk about the nature of renaming a school. One of the things that folks who had been mad at the school district's anti-racist policy, they were also mad at the renaming of Betty Davis East High School. Now, you may be mad at the renaming of a school because you disagree with the name, and maybe you disagree with the process. But to lump the renaming of a school into some conspiracy around the undermining of basically American truth, because that's what the argument is around critical race theory. It's undermining American truth by saying these alternative narratives and these other stories, and like the complexity of what happened is too much for some. I don't think it is. I think it's, first of all, it's truthful, and we should be truthful. We should be honest. That's how we heal. That's how we grow. But it's also how we make sure that all voices are heard. That's why we're getting, I think, progress. This show's about people, politics, and progress. And I think progress is when we can call out the absurdity of injustice. I think progress is when there's enough people who know that discriminating people or against people for any reason is something that we just should be morally objected to, right? Whether it's discriminating against race, ethnicity, national origin, language, who you love, how you show up in the world, your identity. Those are the things that at a core, we should all be able to recognize that there are historic traumas that have contributed to the divisions that persist. So if you have any thoughts on critical race theory, I'd love to hear them. Feel free to give a call. You could disagree with me. I don't have any problem with that. We're just going to keep it civil, of course. That's my thing. Disagree with dignity, everybody. This is George Martinez, Tell George Live, a weekly conversation series. And I just got off the phone with somebody. I hope to be able to get him on because I was having this conversation again this weekend. And the person that I hope to get on the line with me now, I just think has a really great perspective on the world. And hopefully she will call me. And but if you would like to get on the air and share your thoughts about the 4th of July, what your reflections were for yourself, just maybe what you did, but also why and why you didn't celebrate if you didn't celebrate or if you don't. And also just what it means to be an American. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. 222-1061. I try to get you on the air. If you're tuning in here on Facebook, hey, everybody. And send your comments, send your thoughts. I'd love to hear about that. Last week, like I mentioned, we had school board president Margot Bellamy on the line. And we had about a 40-some-odd minute conversation. And it was great conversation. Just wonderful, rich information, both current events, current information, but also some degree of that philosophy that Margot approaches this work with, and why looking at anti-racist policies for the school district is so important to be able to really move the policy needle on things that have been persistent. So what are your thoughts on that? Let's get you on the air. That's 222-1061. This is George Martinez on Out North Radio. And I'm going to go to another tune as I feel a little world music-y today. And hopefully my guest will be able to hear this tune and know I'm thinking about them as an invitation to come on. But, I'm going to play a little Garifuna music. I don't know if you know who that is, but we'll talk a little bit about what that music and where it comes from and why I wanted to play it today. It signifies a lot. It's really freedom music. But what I know is every culture has drums. And let's go to a little Andy Palacio from the Garifuna Collective, everybody. This is just a little musical interlude that I feel that we should take. So, all right now.
Arihabe la segura amule yele ya le meri wakeira segura bukune watina sitina uretina umanukune na muwa adi ayudante anagudina mungi yubaba baby baby ni vivano ni Mama luengi enalia gumunga luni batade luni ni viva luni bamba luni na igirara ya bebana ya luguri yume agagara ya bebana ya luguri yume oh yeah. Galati nubuseto gebegiti nupaseye nege hamutina gasensotinya ungi yubaba pati baby ni vivano ni nairu mama luengi enalia gumunga luni basami luni ni viva luni bamba luni na igiara ya bebana ya luguri Watina, sitina, uletina, umanukune na muka, adi ayudate, katekunina. Watina, sitina, uletina, umanukune na muka, adi ayudate, katekunina.
Yeah, I love that music. A little drumming always, a little garifuna drum music always makes me feel grounded, but it's also freedom music. And we'll talk a little bit more about that culture at another time. But thank you, Kimberly Pace, for tuning in and checking out. And I think you're exactly right. Kimberly Pace, Professor Pace, says it's beyond time for our young people to learn the truth about this land that we live on. Only then can we begin to heal systemic racism. It will take generations, but I look forward to the day when this country is built on equity, not privilege. I could go on, but I will leave this with this. I am writing and listening from the unceded lands of the ancestral Danaína people who have stewarded these lands for thousands of years and continue to do so. Thank you, Kimberly Pace, for your thoughts, and thank you for your land acknowledgement. I mean, especially now and as we celebrate the 4th of July, think about how powerful we are as a people to be able to continue to grow and bring in the ugly truths of our past into the light of healing today. So I agree that it is past time. And again, I think it may be different where you're from. I grew up with a lot of this learning and a lot of this critical mindedness that I think is so important today. So yes, everybody, what are your reflections on what it means to be American? We talked a little bit about land acknowledgements, and but this in the reflection of the 4th of July, I love to know what you think. Feel free to give a chat, put it on the chat on the George for Anchorage Facebook page, and I'll get it on the air. But if you're tuning in on the radio, and it's 222-1061, feel free to give a call. You could agree or disagree. It's all good. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and your reflections. Let me take it to another little twist, another little audio clip. One of the good things about being on community radio is that you do have access to playing almost anything, and we are FCC approved, so that's a good thing. Shout out to Out North Radio for getting community radio back on the air, and to all of the volunteers on the station who support this endeavor and the opportunity for more voices in our community to be connected and heard. This is Tell George Live 106.1 every Monday, our conversation series. And let's go to this little audio clip and let's talk about it afterwards. We're reflecting on the 4th of July. We're talking about critical race theory. We're looking at land acknowledgments and what it means to be an American. You have any thoughts or comments on that? I'd love to hear it. 222-1061 or hit me up on the chat on Facebook and we'll get your comments on the air. But let's go to brother MLK.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, that's one of the most powerful orations that anybody could ever hear, and that gift. But the core of that, the core of what it means to be an American, of that commitment to an idea, the commitment to growing, the commitment. Now, it doesn't. Again, we're definitely not a perfect place, and but what does it mean to you? And where are we? And I know there are people who have the different perspectives of whether or not Dr. King succeeded or failed, and integrating into the burning house, and all sorts of different perspectives. But fundamentally, I don't want to get caught up in jargon. I mentioned at the top of the show, and I don't want people to get caught up in kind of historic tropes. What does it mean to you? I'll tell you, let me give a real good example. Why I know our city's special, Anchorage is special, but why I'm so vigilant about this difference. Right? Systemic racism, as it plays out in police departments across the United States of America, where it plays out newsworthy, where we see it beyond George Floyd. Keep going. There are years and years of unreported, not the things that never hit the news, but how many tens of thousands of young people that grew up in New York City during the years that I grew up, during the Giuliani years, and then beyond. How many young people grew up with being basically physically assaulted by police because of their stop and frisk tactics? Oh, you don't know what that means. Oh, let me let you know. Stop and frisk. It was that if you're walking while black, or if you're walking while brown, or if you're walking together as a group of young brown men, you are necessarily a threat. So the police just would go up to individuals or groups and stop and frisk them and pat us down. And that happened to me many times. I had mentioned that in my run for mayor. I'm the only past mayoral candidate, I'm not running now, past mayoral candidate who had ever experienced that. So that's what it means when it plays out here. Now, so we have an advantage in Anchorage. No kid. I've asked kids. They don't know what stop and frisk means at a practical level. They haven't experienced that. That's a good thing, Anchorage. But it's not just that way. It just doesn't show up that way. There have been other problems that we've worked through here to be able to make sure that we don't have something like that happen here. But we're talking about the 4th of July. It's the celebration of our nation. So as a nation, we still have yet to grapple with some of those deepest, darkest legacies. And I think it is time, Dr. Pace, Professor Pace, I think it is time that we just get real about how to move forward, because I don't want us to get stuck on just the discussion of these ugly truths. I want us to grow forward. I want us to embed policies that bring in justice, that bring in equality, that bring in the values that we hold to be self-evident, to be able to then make a better situation for all of us and for our children. And I think that's one of the most important things about Dr. King, is that Dr. King spoke about the future. It was a vision. It was a dream. What are your thoughts? 222-1061. This is Tell George Live. And if you have any comments or thoughts about or reflections on what it means to be an American, the 4th of July, and just all of the ideas around how we continue to move forward in progress, but through being honest and truthful from a historical perspective, bringing those truths in today and making those substantive differences in the structures around us. I'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections on that. And hey, School Board President Margot Bellamy, thank you for joining in. And let's get that comment on the screen as well. Margot, I'm going to share his personal story that Margot shared with us. Margot's mom passed away in 1984, and they were unable to find a birth certificate except in the ledger of a white family where their grandmother worked, and when she was born in 1926. Think about that. Margot Bellamy described that when her mom passed away in 1984, they were unable to find a copy of her birth certificate except in the ledger of a white family where Margot's grandmother worked when she was born in 1926. Wow. Where Margot's mother was born, right? Yes. And that is amazing. And yes, it is a part of American history, and how many people's histories were erased, families were erased, how much wealth was accumulated on behalf of the backs of families who never reaped any benefit from that wealth, let alone how much history and legacy was lost. So, yeah, I mean, if you got any reflections, I'd love to get them on the air. What are your thoughts about what it means to be American, where we are, and when we celebrate the 4th of July? What does that mean to you, and what reflections do you have? Could you imagine having to track down your mother's birth certificate by going through the ledgers of white families that once had that relationship to your family, where you just couldn't go to the Department of Records and just get it in any county, where it was part of a legacy that was lost. What are your thoughts? 222, we're almost out of time, everybody. And now I've had a great time just kicking it with you all. I could do this and just kick it with you all and share some thoughts and obviously get your thoughts on the air too. So I appreciate that. But as we close out, the number is 222-1061. And I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts or reflections on the school district's anti-racist policies, anti-racism policies, critical race theory, and what that means to you without the jargon, just speaking blunt, and whether you are pro or nay and why. But again, speaking blunt and very directly. And also if you have any reflections on the 4th of July holiday. I'm going to take it to one more little tune here, and we'll come right back with the close of our show. But let's do it on a block-by-block basis, and once again, with the Global Block Collective.
Yeah, we going block by block and city by city. Block by block and city by city. Yeah, block by block and city by city. Block by block and city by city. They say we can't be beastin' with flows that got reason. Dumbed down as the season, but we the holders of freedom in the palms of our hands. It's true across lands. You can twinkle your hands or pump your fist in the man's, cause it's the work that we put in. Got the block cooking. Food for our children like we care for our own. Like a panther on a mission, I can speak in a poem. Bum rush Congress by occupying the vote. Give Occupy the Hood awards for rocking the boat. Global Block the awards for maintaining the hope through the dark times, difficult spots along the road. Time to cock back your mind, let the thoughts explode.
And open up horizons, expanding our vision. I walk in real time and live daily our mission. And most of y'all on the sidelines still wishing, but you will have to shoot your shit up and stop bitching, or stay in the old world where the paradigm is shifting. I say you're dope blind to educate you while you listen. I say rhythm for president, but y'all think I'm tripping. So even while we sipping, I keep provoking and invoking family, hoping that our working will save off calamity. And as the sounds of tragedy gets louder and never present, weeping water to the desert, like in the minds of the masses praying that they get it.
Yeah, we going block by block and city by city. Block by block and city by city. Yeah, block by block and city by city. Block by block and city by city. Yeah, we going block by block and city by city. Block by block and city by city. Yeah, block by block and city by city. Yeah, block by block and city by city. And I be on the blocks all the time, like a thought in your mind, like freedom ring like a bell when the sun don't shine on the people's might, getting hype in the moonlight. Police have to make the choice to be with us and unite. We'll stand against the people like they did in Oakland, provoking war scenes in the open against teens, promoting violence and hoping for silence. But the fat lady singing as she's playing violence,
and I've been on the
voices
streets
on the
everywhere, from the
sirens.
park to the square. Learn to master my thoughts and build to prepare. Give my baby a chance to grow up and dance. Got even music with the b-boy stand. I give it up for a bona fide MC fan. Americans from the block to the global back where I am. Brooklyn, be the borough where I is. Hip hop in my veins, it's the life I live.
We going block by block and city by city. Block by block and city by city. Yeah, block by block and city by city. Block by block and city by city. Yeah, we going block by block and city by city. Block by block and city by city. Yeah, block by block and city by city. Block by block and city by city.
Oh, man. Well, I got somebody on the line, and it's a very special guest, everybody. And on the closeout of the show, I really wanted to hear, I played a little Garifuna music before, and so that was me calling the connection to my wife. So everybody, I'd like to introduce Clara Martinez. Clara's on the line.
Hey, love.
Hey, Clara. Good to hear your voice. And I played a little Garifuna music for you. Now, so all honestly, I thank you for being with me. Thank you for joining on the line. And, you know, I'm talking about, Clara, the 4th of July weekend. We're talking about identity and what it means to, you know, be in this kind of grand experiment of America and all the different ideas and all the different diversity. And you have a very strong cultural background. Well, give us a little reflection of your this reflection this weekend. You know, we hung out with some friends, but this is like, there's a lot going on in the world. And I just love to hear how you think about the state of the union, the state of America, and the state of our world, and what you hope for, baby.
Right on. Well, thank you, my love, for having me on tonight. Well, first of all, I'd just like to say I am a proud American. My parents actually, as you know, well, you know most of the history, but most folks probably don't. My parents met when they were 20 years old in Brooklyn, New York, and migrated from Honduras and Belize. And you know, our upbringing was a little different as far as what the American way looks like. Again, my parents were from Honduras and Belize, and but they've always instilled in us. They came to this country for
opportunities.
That's
right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah. And so they've always instilled in us hard work, making sure that we execute and, you know, and have a plan. So just watching my parents and how hard they worked for us here in this country when they came here, obviously made me fall in love with America and the opportunities that we have.
Well, thank you, Clara, for checking in. And everybody, this is my wife, Clara Guerrero, on the line, Clara Martinez. We got in La Comunidad Latina, we often have
and babe,
multiple last names.
So good.
Oh, baby, thank you. I appreciate. Well, listen, let me. Well, if you like this, just wait till I get home. But good to.
I love you, my love. I'm making them lemon meringue pie right now.
You go ahead and
get back to my recipe.
You go ahead and handle your business. I appreciate you taking a little pause out and sharing that thought and reflection, because you do have and a lot of our folks, a lot of our listeners have, you know, the more current modern immigration story into this great experiment of America. So thank you for sharing your reflection. I'll see you soon at the house.
My brother.
All right, thank you. All right, I love you too. And everybody, that's my wife, Clara, on the line, and just getting off. And yeah, I hear there's another comment here. Thank you, Jacob Poindexter, for checking in. We're closing in on the last minute of the show, but let's get it in here. And Brother Jacob offers, I often think that European cultures, what has become the idea, I often think that European cultures, what has become the idea of whiteness, has been the very narrow default definition of American cultural history for so long that when people question or expand American history as it has been taught, it can seem like it's an attempt at erasure at the culture that they claim for themselves universally. I love that. And that difficulty. Right. And that's really, Jacob, loss. And the nature of zero-sum game really has to be challenged. And I'm going to continue to talk about this issue. We're going to continue to open this up. Thank you, Margot. Let's put this comment. There is no K-12 curriculum in critical race theory. Right. Absolutely. And then let's also make sure that we're hearing this. Anti-racism is about challenging the systems that create disparities of success for some and failures for others. So, right. And lastly, this idea of justice. So, hey, everybody, this is George Martinez. We're at the top of the hour. This is Tell George Live, Monday conversation series, every Monday from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on 106.1 Out North Radio. I had a great day chatting with you all. I will tune in next week. We'll have more conversation. We'll bring more folks in. And once again, just be safe out there, everybody. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.